Hello everybody, I am Coffee with Cartoons, and recently I watched the entirety of Shaggy and Scooby-Doo Get a Clue, a cartoon that ran between 2006 and 2008, and followed Shaggy and Scooby on some super-powered adventures, notably without the rest of the Mystery Gang. I'll go over my first impressions, and then what I enjoyed, followed by what I disliked, and then my overall rating for the show. I was surprised that during the first few minutes of the show, we are given so much information about the characters and the world, and how it's going to be different from the regular Scooby-Doo franchise. There are already parts of the franchise that have just Shaggy and Scooby, but not the rest of the gang. But most of them still don't give the characters a lot of depth or personality. They're just Shaggy and Scooby who are scared most of the time, and usually their problems are solved by running and gags. I always enjoyed the parts of the franchise that gave Scooby and Shaggy, or for that matter any of the gang, more personality. Whether it's character traits that the writers pulled out of their asses, or explanations for traits they had all along. Personality traits worth mentioning that they gained are Scooby being more snarky, while Shaggy is almost optimistic to a fault. The first minute or so of the episode is informative, and it starts out with the classic character trait of Shaggy and Scooby love to eat. It starts with this disgusting scene of them in an all-you-can-eat restaurant, until they wake up and it's revealed that they were sleeping on the couch. They wake up on this dingy couch and their stomachs growl. They agree to go to the kitchen and get some food. On the way to the kitchen, we see that Shaggy has an honor student award on the wall, along with their living room being pretty messy, illustrating that Shaggy may be smarter than led on in other iterations, but also that they are still very lazy. In the kitchen, we're given this fun shot, where they open the fridge and we're inside the fridge as the audience, looking out at them looking into it. After they realize the fridge is empty, Shaggy runs around the whole kitchen, opening all the cupboards and cabinets, showing them they're empty as well. The thing I like about this is that you know that he knows that they were empty to begin with. He does the grocery shopping, they ate the food, but him and Scooby are both just very dramatic about it, even when they know exactly what is going to happen. Shaggy attempts to comfort Scooby, saying at least they have each other, but Scooby was still unhappy, understandably so. This is when Shaggy gets the call about his Uncle Albert leaving him a mansion and $1 billion. Side note, but Shaggy smartly uses this money to get out of a lot of situations, even paying a bounty hunter $1,002 not to kill him. I like this because not only does it justify them getting all this money, but it really expresses that $1 billion is just an insane amount of money. Even with all their spending throughout the series, they never mention the possibility of running out. When I watched this episode, I replayed Shaggy's reaction to the phone call about 3 times. I enjoyed it so much. Shaggy hangs up the phone and falls flat onto the floor, before levitating off of it to express his excitement. And I like that you can follow his exact train of thought in these moments. Shock, elation, food, and then his friends. He calls up the gang immediately. Well, he calls Fred, who just so happens to be at a diner with Velma and Daphne. Now, Shaggy could have just told them what happened, but instead we get Shaggy hyperventilating into the phone in excitement, and Fred listening completely unfazed, insinuating that this is not an uncommon occurrence. Here is also where we see teeth animated for the first time, something they do often to show extreme expressions. This bothered me at first, but honestly, by the end, I loved this little detail, it being something so unique and interesting visually. Now, since Shaggy's hyperventilating, Freddy can't understand him, and so he hands the phone to Velma. But as he does that, Shaggy hands the phone to Scooby, who reiterates what Shaggy said, but in his completely unintelligible dog way of speaking, setting up for a joke where Velma won't know what he's saying. But then, in a twist, had her completely understand and repeat everything he said perfectly. Between this and Fred's reaction to the hyperventilating and Velma knowing Shaggy's uncle's name, in just 20 seconds we understand how well these characters know each other. Shaggy and Scooby go to Uncle Albert's mansion, and in the same shot that shows off the sketchy painted style of background I like so much, we also see the mystery machine to the right just fucking explode. Showing again how broke they were before this, and interestingly enough, giving Shaggy ownership of the van for once instead of Fred. They are greeted at the door by Roby, the world's worst robot butler. Shaggy explains that Roby was his uncle's first invention. and that he never really worked out all the kinks. Think of him as Norm from Phineas and Ferb. Nice, has some feelings, takes everything too literally, and never uses doors correctly. After some antics, Scooby and Shaggy go down to his uncle's lab, where they find that his uncle has gone into hiding because someone is after him and his nanotechnology, and that he was leaving it up to Scooby and Shaggy to protect the nanites, and that no one, including himself, will be safe until after these people are stopped. Now then, people is a generous word for one man with a bunch of henchmen, but I digress. In the scene, we also see a photo, the only photo in Uncle Albert's lab, mind you, and it's a photo of a younger Albert with Shaggy at a graduation. My immediate thought was college graduation, but there's actually no indication that this could not be a high school graduation. Then, after getting kidnapped by the villain's henchmen, they end up trapped and about to be drowned. But they found out that his uncle put the nanites in the Scooby snack recipe, and that they give Scooby superpower-like abilities, like invisibility, in this case, which they use along with their mystery solver's background to break free and escape. And, well, that's the setup. Shaggy and Scooby, for 2 years, are on their own with a new mystery machine, a robot, superpowered Scooby snacks, and a mission to stop the villain from stealing the nanotechnology his uncle made. But other than that, we learn so much more in this episode. Like how Shaggy is selfless and loyal, a theme we continue to see throughout the entire 26-episode run. Every important decision Shaggy makes in this first episode, and by extension most episodes, is for somebody else. When he gets the message from Uncle Albert that they will be in danger if they choose to accept this mission, he only freaks out for a second, before he tells Scooby that his Uncle Albert is family, and that they have no choice but to accept. And then in the submarine, seeing Scooby in such distress, he thinks on his feet and lies about having the information, buying them time to think up a way out. We learn about every major character in this series in this episode, from Agent 1 and 2's dynamic, to Dr. Trebler, the villain's new chief scientist, to Roby, the expressive and dangerous butler robot, as well as the worst part of this series, the villain. But I'll get to him later. From the very first episode, this show was a treat. From the interesting character and background designs to character dynamics, and running gags that would continue to make me laugh for the rest of the series. From the start, this show had great personality, and took the time to have other characters be the main focus. Like 1, 2, Phineas, and Roby. They all had interactions completely void of Shaggy and Scooby's presence, making this feel more like a whole new idea, rather than just another Scooby-Doo show. I often get the feeling while watching other Scooby-Doo media that these are less like characters and more like puppets with a couple personality traits hammered home every episode or movie. Which is why, even though I grew up with What's New Scooby-Doo and its amazing theme song, I would still throw on an episode of Mystery Inc. or Be Cool Scooby-Doo before it. Oh, I'm sorry. Have I not mentioned the Get a Clue theme song and intro yet? Well, that's because I hate it so much. The music is cringy at best and grating on the ears at worst. I dislike how crowded the screen gets, and because of the silhouette style all the characters are in, Roby looks like a dick, and the villain looks like he's giving a Nazi salute because of his prosthetic dome hand. And I just don't like it. Now moving on, I'm going to tell you about some of the details in the show I really enjoyed, followed by a few that I didn't, and then my final rating for the series. Starting with the visuals, I liked them. I actually love the way this show looks for the most part, except for the gross out moments, but they were pretty few and far between. Shaggy's look to me just screams 2005, with the layered shirt and the cargo pants, and for some reason I really liked that him and Scooby had the exact same facial hair. Thought it was a fun detail. Something that stuck out to me was that he and Scooby got a new outfit almost every episode to match their mission. From suited up to golfing gear, and my personal favorite, Cowboy Shaggy. The rest of the mystery gang are not a major part of the show, only showing up in 2 episodes. But I'd like to say that these are some of my favorite designs for them, from Fred losing that ugly ascot and gaining this soft teddy bear look, to Velma finally being drawn chubby for once, And I can't even look at Daphne's design, or I swear I'll go off. I love her so much. Her silhouette, her boots, new hair, she has a necklace. This is peak Daphne design for me. And I really feel like the backgrounds speak for themselves here. I mean, look at these. Not to mention, they go all over the world. Rainforest, desert, mountains. Shaggy and Scooby be out there giving Carmen Sandiego a run for her money. Shaggy and Scooby's relationship here is also really solid. They are the best of friends, and it shows every episode. They have a great chemistry and even have a couple of fights throughout the show, making for some great extra conflict and satisfying resolutions. Shaggy and Scooby were also surprisingly active main characters, not just letting the Super Scooby snacks resolve every episode by themselves like I thought they might in the beginning. In fact, in nearly every episode, Shaggy plays a key role in saving the day. From thinking quickly on his feet, outwitting his enemies, but most importantly, just being a really great guy. I know I mentioned earlier that Shaggy was selfless, loyal, and optimistic to a fault, but he is also extremely personable and nice. And that in itself ends up saving the day. An example is when he continues to be unbearably nice to his mean, angry neighbor, inviting him to his party, getting all the regulations in order that he asked, and eventually saving his life, and saving himself and Scooby from being kicked out of the house and the neighborhood. He is nice too, and loves Roby, even though he is worse than useless, and even has shown willingness to forgive the villain had he turned over a new leaf, even after his countless attempts to kill him and Scooby. I don't have much to say about the destructive, norm-type robot Roby, but for all his faults, he's still a fun character, having won me over by the end. To tie off my positives, I'd like to say that the number one thing I liked about this show was the comedy. From banter to expression, sarcasm, I found myself laughing out loud every single episode. For some MVPs in the comedy department, I'll start off with Agent Number 2, who plays well-meaning funny but stupid perfectly to me. Then we have the Napoleon Dynamite ripoffs, Ricky and Mark, who are techies for the villain, but are also 100% ripped right from the movie that only came out 2 years before this show. Like, I had to look up the voice actors to make sure it wasn't them, but I guess that would be impossible, given that the same 4 men voice every character in this show. These two turned out to be particularly hilarious with their roleplay and wizard antics. On to my dislikes. There were only 2 aspects of the show that really soured my viewer experience. Well, 3 if I include the complete lack of any non-male characters in the main cast, and lack of women entirely in 90% of the show. The villain. A technology pirate by the name of Dr. Phineas Phibes. And I dislike this ugly, evil bugger so much. I swear, there were times when I was like, oh, I would love to give this episode a 10, but Phineas existed in it. At no point are we given any real reason to sympathize with this whiny idiot. When he does get backstories, they just make you hate him more, seeing that before anything tragic ever happened to him, he still behaved evil. He will constantly go from annoying man-baby who no one respects to feared villain. I mean, at least he's competent at being evil, I'll give him that, defeating our heroes on several occasions. Unfortunately, Phineas plays a large role, taking up quite a bit of screen time, and it really drug this show down for me. The other element that stuck out to me was a lack of anything new in Season 2. At the end of the first season, we are left with what I thought would be a massive status quo change. I even put in my notes that I was looking forward to seeing new elements added in the next season, whether it be a new character, new tech, or even a change in team dynamics. However, the next season came, and even with the one big change, everything stayed the same somehow. The only notable change being this brainless robot dog Roby made, and he was only in there for a few episodes. Their missions continued to get more dangerous, world-ending circumstances coming up on multiple occasions, and Phineas continued to get more powerful. But there was Shaggy and Scooby, still with the same team and equipment. I remember thinking I would have taken anything at the point in Season 2 when I realized nothing was changing. A new enemy, a new teammate. Hell, a love interest would have even been welcomed. I thought it would have been fun for the two to maybe use the allies they made in the first season, seeing as Shaggy's people skills played such a big part in most missions. But no. Now, that being said, this show easily ranks in my top 3 Scooby shows. My ranking system is based on how many episodes of the series I would be excited to watch again. Every episode I ranked from 1 to 10 on how much I would want to watch it again. 1 and 2 being that I wouldn't watch it again if you paid me, and 9 and 10 meaning that I wanted to watch it immediately after I finished it. This show was fun, funny, action-packed, and visually appealing, with engaging main characters who kept me rooting for them every episode. And I'd give it 7.5 cups of coffee out of 10. I'd highly recommend it to Scooby fans and non-fans alike. I hope you enjoyed the video. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe.